Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Live with the Pricing Lady. I'm your host, Janine Liston, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be with you here today. Here on the show, we're all about helping you and your small business create the value, communicate the value, and charge for the value that you deliver. Welcome. I'm so happy to be here with you today. This week in my Facebook group, we've been focusing on pricing psychology. This is a topic that I really enjoy and that most of my clients actually find really fun and a little bit funny at times. And I wanted to carry that through into this week's Live with the Pricing Lady show and talk to you about the pricing psychology and the offers you're making your customers. Here's what I see all the time, and that is people show me their offers and they look like invoices. So an invoice and an offer are two completely different things. In fact, an invoice is all about the amount, right? And when it's due. And that is not what your offer should be about. Your offer should be first and foremost about the value that you're providing your customer. So in your offers, if you're not taking the opportunity to first communicate the value, then you are missing out on something big, because we all know that the price that people are willing to pay is only relevant in the context of the value that they perceive they're going to get out of it. So it's your job, and it's another opportunity for you in these offers to present your case in a sense, right? That's where this energy that I have for this topic has come from, because too often I see people are not using that opportunity. And this goes for big firms and small firms alike. They're missing out on this. They get either hung up in the technical aspects of it or just hung up in trying to deliver a price. Now, let me be clear about something. This doesn't mean that you have to have a big, long, drawn-out offer. In 3 or 4 sentences, you can communicate everything that needs to be communicated in an offer for a client to be satisfied, depending on the situation. In other cases, of course, you may also need to give more information. What's important here is to follow a certain structure. And that's the first psychology aspect I want to talk to you about, is what structure should you or could you be using? Now, you're going to need to adapt this a little bit based on your business and how things roll with you. But the first thing is we always want to be starting out with some sort of idea of value. Now, sometimes we put the problem first and then the value, and sometimes in other cases you'll want to start with just the value and you don't have to worry about the problem. What I like to do more often than not is I always start by sort of restating what the customer has told me is the problem or the challenge that they're having or the solution that they're looking for. So I try to incorporate their words into the first few sentences so that it resonates more with them and they feel like, oh yeah, she gets me. She really listened to what I was saying. And that can help build a lot of rapport with customers. So if you have the opportunity to do that in a written offer, but also when you're speaking to someone, that is really going to help build that relationship. So you're going to start with a restatement of the problem, and then you're going to go into the value. Now, let me be clear once again about what I mean by value. The value is not the technical features of your product. It is not what you do or how you do it if you're offering a service. In general, those things are not the value. They're the ways in which the value is delivered. So you need to start separating out how the value is being delivered from what value they actually get. So after you state the problem, then you're going to want to talk about what value they're actually getting. And if you've watched some of my videos before, you know there's 4 areas that we look for value. We look, how am I helping my customer manager reduce their risk? How am I helping them improve the quality of what they offer? How am I helping them with the economic efficiency, either more time or money, savings of time or money? And the 4th one, and as I always forget one, so we said risk, Quality, competitive advantage is the fourth one. How am I helping my customer have a competitive advantage? These are 4 areas where if you look at the features or how you work with people, you can start to extract the value. And you want to make sure that you're focusing on value criteria that the customer is actually interested in. So years ago, I worked in a business where we had a new product rolling out, and the engineering team was really excited because they had fit the same size power supply or a bigger power supply in the same size box. But guess what? That brought no value to the customer. Sure, it was an exciting engineering feat to us accomplish that. However, when we went to try and put together the marketing material to sell it, we ran into a huge roadblock because, in fact, there was no value add from the customer's perspective. This is the kind of thing that we want to avoid. So again, restate that problem in the context of what your customer is saying is the problem, the challenge, or their desired outcome. Then talk about the value that you're going to give them, and you can look at those other areas. Then you might, in some cases, get into the how. So the how can be important. So like if you're doing consultancy or coaching work, the how could be important because people want to know how they're going to spend their time with you and how you're going to work together. And sometimes with products, especially if your chief decision maker is the engineer, they're going to want to know all the technical features. But that always comes after the value, right? So we have problem or objective, value, and then how the value might be delivered. Then you can get into delivering the price because you've established and given them an idea, sprinkled all these thoughts in their head about what the value is. Now you're ready to be telling them what the price for that value is. And then the last piece that you want to add on to this are the conditions around that. And I'm going to come back into that in a moment. So when you look at the structure of this, it's basically a sales discussion on paper, just without the dialogue, right? And this is very important because we always want to establish the value first before we go about delivering the price. Now, here's the second thing that I want you to start putting into your offers that will help with the psychology impact of your offers. And that's like, I want you to give customers options. One of the things that I think works least effectively is when you give a customer just one single option, because then there's kind of no way out for them and they have little control over the decision, right? About what it's basically yes or no in some cases. So what you want to do is you want to give them some places where they can make choices. This way, they feel in control of the decision they're making, yet you're still guiding them. I always equate this to, like, when I years ago, I used to do a lot of babysitting, and I learned very quickly not to ask a child what they want for lunch. I say, would you like peanut butter and jelly, or would you like, a hamburger? I'd give them choices rather than leaving it open. And then I wouldn't get crazy things like, I want an ice cream sundae with pickles on top, right? So my point here is that if you give them a few options, then it gives you room to play with the price. You can do this in 2 ways. Well, you could do this in many ways, but I'll go over 2 ways. One way is to have 3 fixed offers, right? So one is kind of your premium solution over here, and then your lowest value solution, and then something in the middle. It can also be do it myself, DIY, do it yourself, do it with me, or done for me. So you could structure your 3 offers in that way. Or what you can do, if you do consulting, for example, you might create different modules, and then the customers can order different modules, either, some of them standalone, and then others of them in combination. I've had a lot of success with that. I find that customers really like that. You just have to be a little bit careful that you don't give them too many options. Otherwise, they kind of go into overload in terms of trying to make a decision about what to do. So give them options. The other way that you can give them options instead of or on top of these packages is to offer add-ons, right, or upsells. So let's say you're being asked to do a half-day workshop at a big company. Well, you might also offer them, something that they could do in advance. So maybe the participants can do some sort of self-assessment in advance. And so that's maybe something you didn't talk about with the customer, but you could add on as an additional option, or, something to follow up on the workshop afterwards. So be creative and think about, what would really benefit the customer. And you can also go beyond that moment when the workshop is, for example. You can take it into, well, what can they do? And how can I support them moving forward? That's also a great option or additional piece to put in your offer. Now, if you're doing product business, this is where you get into offering some services. Maybe you can help them down the road with some support and services, or some health checks on the equipment or product that you sold. There's lots of different options here. So this was really the second piece, is we want to give customers some options. And what this does is they have different options, and those are at different value points and at different price points. So when someone says, oh my goodness, this is so much more than I thought, you can say, well, why don't we look at a solution that, it's not done for you, but maybe we do it together. And that way you learn from it more, and it's a price point that you can take on a little bit more confidently. So this way you're always kind of giving them options, and you always have a way to kind of maneuver, and well, maybe not maneuver is the right word, but you have a way to guide them through the conversation when you talk to them about the offer that you've made. So hello to all of you who are joining me live. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you here with me. If you have any questions as I'm going through this, go ahead and pop them in the chat. I'll do my best to take a look before we close this up and answer any questions that you have. The last piece, so we've talked about making sure you have the right structure so that clients can digest the information in the right way, and the right way being value first, price second, and the conditions around that price third. Then we took a look at how we want to give them options, and these should be price and value trade-off options, and how that can help them, again, feel more in control of the decision they're making about how and they're going to work with you, what value they're going to get out of it, and the price that they're going to pay. The third thing I wanted to take a look at with you today are the conditions and boundaries. And my experience, especially with service-based businesses, is they tend to underestimate the importance of setting boundaries and being clear about the conditions for which the price they're offering is relevant, right? So now we've all been in the situation where we've had a difficult customer, right? And sometimes those customers that have pushed us on the price the most are the ones that have been the most challenging in the end. And this is something that can carry through the work you do with a customer. So you want to make sure that you set this up properly from the start. What do I mean by boundaries? Well, sometimes, a company will call you and they'll say, I'd like you to come and let's stick with the workshop example. I want you to come and do a workshop at my company. And then they say it's about 10 people. And then about a day or two before the workshop, so you've already agreed on a price and everything, they come back to you and they're like, actually, we've added another 15 people. I hope that's okay. And then you're in this weird position where you either have to tell them that it's going to cost them more, and then you're afraid that they might, get upset and you might ruffle some feathers, or you say nothing and then you're not standing up for yourself. Well, here's what you can do. Put that those conditions in the offer itself. So you might, when you make the offer, the price that you give them, say it's valid for up to X number of participants. Yeah, so if they've said 10, you might say, okay, 10 or 15 or however many makes sense for you. But then one of the options you can add in the offer is that there's a price, an additional price per participant if they include more people. Because let's face it, while it's not any more work or effort for you in general, the value that the company gets, the difference between having 10 people go through the workshop and 15 people go through the workshop is enormous more value, and you want to capture that. So this is what I mean by putting these boundaries in here. So payment terms are definitely an important pricing boundary. You are not a bank, right? And if you are a bank, you need to be charging interest in a sense, but also then think about, if you're doing trainings or workshops, how many people can be involved, up to, I got tired of people asking me for a 45-minute presentation and expecting my price to go like this. And, so make an offer and say, okay, any workshop up to 4 hours is this price. Because then if they want to make it 2 hours or 4 hours, you don't care. You're going to get the same money either way. Now, you may care in terms of 2 hours may not be enough, and that's a different conversation. But words or phrases like up to, starting from, they can be very helpful in your offers in terms of creating boundaries. If you're doing, say, consultancy and coaching work, you may also want to be clear about when you're available. Are you available 24/7? Are you going to be answering the phone or taking client-facing meetings on the weekend? Sometimes you can, people will put that in the offer, business should be done or conducted in business hours. For an additional fee, we can work on weekends. Contact me for further details. Again, this just helps make it clear for both you and the client what is going to be the working relationship. And the more clear you can be about that up front, the less challenges and problems you'll have later on. Another good one, especially for coaches, is no-shows or people who show up late for appointments. Will they get the appointment as a makeup session or not? As well as, if there's, I have a client who's sending you lots of emails in between sessions. Is there a limit to that you'd like to have? Or how would you like to approach that conversation? So think about these types of conditions up front, because they can become very important later on when it comes to how you're operating and working with people. Again, a lot of this goes down to psychology. If we don't set boundaries up front, then there are some people who will try to take advantage of those boundaries. And we want to make sure that we set ourselves and them up for a positive working relationship down the road, rather than one that is a little bit contentious. All right, so those were the three main areas I wanted to talk to you about your offers. It's quite a bit of information. And there are a couple other tips that I gave yesterday on my Facebook group. And you can always join my Facebook group. Just head on over to Charge Your Worth with the Pricing Lady, and you'll find it there. But a couple other tips that I gave had to do with some other let's say numbers-based things. So for example, if the price of what you're offering is 100 francs, dollars, euros, whatever, 100 or more, and you're offering some sort of discount, offer the discount by telling them the amount they're saving as opposed to the percentage off. And why do we do this? We do this because the number is bigger, so it makes people feel like they're getting more. Let me give you an example. If I'm selling, okay, this is a bad example, this pen for $50, which you'd think I'm crazy, but if I were, let's pretend it's a very nice pen. I'm selling it for $50. A 10% discount is $5. 10 is higher than 5, so yay, I'm going to tell them the discount is 10%, not $5. But if this pen were $500 instead of $50, a 10% discount would be what? $50. So I'm going to tell them you get $50 off rather than you get a 10% discount, because 50 is more than 10. Fun how that works, right? Very interesting. Hi, Sonia. Good to see you. Oh, your offers look like an invoice. Okay, we'll have to take a look at that, right? Okay, so what's another tip that I can give you? Another tip that I can give you is that when you're delivering the price, anytime prior to delivering that price, if you can mention a number that's bigger than your price, it's going to make your price seem smaller, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to make it appear like it's not as big an investment. And we can use these types of little tweaks to our offers, to our communication with our clients in order to help us. So again, if we just make those little adjustments, also using a smaller font for the price rather than a big bold one, these types of things help boost what customers perceive in our pricing. Okay. That's what I wanted to talk to you about today. I think that I'm giving you a lot to think about. And of course, if you go through some of my old videos, join the Facebook group, you can get more and you can ask me some questions about some of these things. But really, your offers, the main point I want to drive home here, well, two. Let me have two here. The first one is your written offers are an opportunity to communicate with your customers and to help them understand the value. Now, you can do that in a couple of short sentences. You can do that in a page and 2 page. And I mean, I've worked on offers that have been, 30 pages because it had all these technical specifications. You have to figure out what's right for you. What's important is that you're able to help the customer understand the value, right? And that is before you're delivering the price. So help them understand the value before you're delivering the price. The second point I want to drive home is that the psychology matters. Now, there's always at least one of you in every group who says, ooh, but that's a bit manipulative. I don't want to do that. And that's okay. If you don't feel comfortable using these, that's fine. But please, 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 I was going to say bitte, 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 which is please in German. Please make sure that you're not accidentally doing something and these psychology tactics are working against you. So let's say in your written offer, you talk about some numbers and those numbers are smaller than your price. That is going to make your price appear to be bigger. So you don't have to use them proactively if you don't want to, although I advise you to do so. But if you don't want to, just make sure they're not working against you. Okay, the psychology is really important here, and it makes a difference in how people perceive what you're doing. Just imagine if you were the customer and you asked for an offer for someone who was, going to build something for you in your business. And that offer came to you and it looks like an invoice for 7,500 francs. Would that instill the confidence of you or help you understand the value of what you're going to get out of it? Now, if on the other hand, you got an offer that had a few words up front that were resonating with you, that made you feel like this person understood what your challenge was, and then they told you about the value, all the exciting things that are going to happen in your life or with your business or whatever, that is going to, make it right and better. And then they deliver the price to you and you have options about what you want to do. It's such a different experience. And this is what I'd like to see for you in your business. Well, everyone, that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much once again for joining me. Oh, hello to Marta. I see you there as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I wish you all the best. And as always, if you'd like to find out more about how you can work with me, you can go ahead and book a nice little discovery call, and we can have a talk about how I can best help you with pricing and your pricing strategy in your business. That's all for today. Have a great week. And as always, everyone, enjoy pricing.